All right, what's going on, everyone? What's going on? Had to restart it as we ran into some technical difficulties, but gonna talk about what happened today at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Atlanta Falcons for the seventh time in 8 years have started the season 0-1, losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today. Um, and I want to say a lot about this game. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm really not. There have been times that the Falcons have lost week one before that I've kind of gone into panic mode, kind of thought worst case scenario. I'm not doing that. I'm really not feeling that. There were times I legitimately just felt so demoralized over week one. I'm really not doing that because I truly feel like the Falcons, I think they got the tools to get it back on track. Now it's a very tough schedule coming up, but what I saw today is I saw a team that was fine to the end. I didn't see a team that no matter what, that game did not get out of a one possession game. They obviously have some stuff to clean up. We're going to talk about that. There's people that need to get blamed for this because at the end of the day, we did lose. And, this was against the team that we're clearly going to have to go through if we want to win the NFC South. We want to get back to the playoffs. However, I'm not demoralized. There have been years, even I can even look at last year. After that first week, I was really kind of feeling down on where this team could be because we had a tough schedule coming up. There have been years where the Falcons have blown big leads in the fourth quarter. You know, well, yes, the Falcons did give up, a big touchdown late in the game. It was really always neck and neck. Either team could have won. And I've been thinking and saying this since May. The Falcons were not going to sweep the Bucs this year. That's just reality. I'd love to win every game. We were not going to sweep Tampa again this year. It's honestly, you know, everything involves luck, and I'm not going to devalue us sweeping them last year because we absolutely did that thing against them twice. We did what we had to do to win, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and act like, it honestly, the Falcons really got two lucky wins versus the Bucs. And, it's hard for that luck to go your way a third time. Even though, there were definitely points where it looked like it maybe was going to. Michael Penix once again proved why what I said at the end of last season. I knew what Michael Penix could be because I saw it last year, but he validated all of it. He's our quarterback. We finally got a quarterback. We went through Mariota. We went through Ritter. We went through Kirk Cousins. We got our quarterback. We got Michael Penix. All we need is for him to stay healthy and be out there. And he's our quarterback. And there's so much I think that you can like about Michael Penix. But I still don't think Michael Penix was totally done justice today. For several factors. I think that some of the new faces on the offensive line, including the injury to Caleb McGarry, played a part in that. But I also think that you got to contribute a lot of blame to some of the points where the Falcons looked really anemic today to Zach Robinson, who for the second straight year has come out week one and looked like he needed a Xanax. Looked like he didn't take a Xanax this morning because that game that was called today was pretty much a game that you would call for a guy like Kirk Cousins, not Michael Penix. I don't remember one time Penix being under center. I don't remember a time where, and I understand that, you know, it's week one and you're dealing with injuries on the offensive line, but this guy has an ability to stretch the field with his arm, and you just did not take it today. You did not set up those plays. Now, I also think that the Falcons missing Darnell Mooney, that also probably played a major part in what we saw, the inability to really stretch the field with Michael Penix's arm. But Penix still, he got Kyle Pitts involved today. Everyone's been talking about when are the Falcons going to get Kyle Pitts involved. They got him involved today. 7 catches, 7 or 8 catches. Um, Obviously the big touchdown on the third play of the game to Bijan that was a screen pass. It was all Bijan, but and they still goes down as a touchdown pass for Michael Penix. So the Falcons definitely had their moments in this game, and then of course the touchdown run late to put us on top 20-17. And you know, of course you're going to take your lumps, and I've always said that I would rather see these young guys out here learning than getting some washed up veterans that what the fuck they are. That the chances are really slim of them being able to turn anything around to what we've seen prior. I'd rather see the young guys out there learning. And I think what we saw today from Xavier Watts, what we saw from Billy Bowman, I liked it. There were points that looked like rookies. Xavier Watts definitely, he had a few that on Xavier Watts should have had an interception today, but there were just, especially on that first touchdown, he bit too hard. He easily could have swatted that down, but he was trying to make the big play, and Baker Mayfield was able to thread the needle to Emeka Egbukas for that touchdown. That's another thing too, man. Emeka Egbukas, he had a big game too. He had a big game too. Hold on a second, everyone. Had to had to deal with something real quick. But um appreciate everyone for coming in here. The Zoom link is in there if y'all want to tap into the Zoom, man, and talk about this. But like I say, the rookies, they looked like rookies, but they're going to grow, and I'd rather see them out there. Now, I will say this, and this is going to be my first grievance I'm going to air out. It did not feel like that Jalen Walker. It felt like Jalen Walker was out there more than Pierce, and maybe it's just from the angle I was seeing it at. It did not feel like Walker and Pierce were out there, it together at least, causing havoc. I didn't see. I did see. I think Pierce got a penalty against him, but I didn't see them out there, and I as much as I would have liked, at least. So that I think is the first grievance. But at the same time, I think the lack of pass rush also that can be contributed to. The Falcons, I really don't think have a big man who is yet capable of clogging up those lanes. And I think that is the one thing that I really I did not like this offseason is that it didn't feel like they got that big man to go in there, clog up those lanes, and let those rushers roam free. And I feel like that kind of bit them today. We saw it with Tampa. They were getting pressure on Penix throughout that game because they had Vita Vea. And honestly, I don't think the Falcons were really accounting for Vita Vea to be playing and have an impact because of his injury. And I honestly really wasn't either. I thought there was a chance that Vita Vea was going to be out. And I think if he was out, that changes everything. But, he was in there. And whenever Vita Vea is in there, it is going to be really, really hard to get that run game going against Tampa. And we saw that. We saw that it was really hard to get that run game going against the Buccaneers today. We did not see Bijan or Algier out of the backfield, I think, to do what we wanted to do. And I think you do have to contribute a part of that too. Being completely honest, just Vita Vea is an absolute monster. Bijan had 12 carries for 24 yards out of the backfield. Algier, 10 carries for 24 yards. Penix was really our most efficient runner if you're looking at it by average, 6 carries, 21 yards, and then the touchdown late. Bijan was our leading receiver for the day, 6 catches, 100 yards, and the touchdown. Kyle Pitts, 7 catches, 59 yards. Drake London, 8 catches for 55 yards. Ray McLeod, he had some big plays, 3 catches for 51. Casey Washington, 3 catches for 33 yards. So you never want to make excuses about injuries because that's never the way I think to go. I think you have to admit that the Falcons, and this came down to game planning, and Zach Robinson for the second straight year has came out week 1 and put out a crapshoot of a game plan that did not work out. He called the game like Kirk Cousins was his quarterback. He completely forgot what Michael Penix can do. We didn't see anything under center. We didn't see any type of, and maybe you can contribute out of the offensive line, but at the same time, you're going to have to learn how to manage that because they were talking all week about they trusted Elijah Wilkinson. But once again, we saw that they really didn't because they did not let Penix stretch the game downfield. But I think there's a lot that can be attributed to that, but he did not call a good game. Now, going over the other big thing is I think it's time for Younghoe Koo to get out of Atlanta. I think that it has been a nice run with Koo. He has given us some great moments, especially the past few seasons when we really ain't been shit. We've been looking for our quarterback at the end of the Matt Ryan era. Koo has been a consistency, but he is now becoming a clear liability. And in the NFL, it doesn't matter how many kicks you make, especially at the kicker position, how many kicks you make, how many games you win. That leash can only be so short. And if you start costing your team games because you can't make kicks, eventually it's a liability. We saw it last year. Koo cost us not just that Saints game, but at least one other game based off his inability to make kicks. we heard that he was injured. And we brought Lenny Craig in to compete with him this offseason. Koo ended up winning his job back, but Lenny Craig is still on this practice squad. His job isn't safe like it once was. And now, really, this miss today, a miss that just should not have happened. He pushed it wide right. And it wasn't just the miss. The other, I don't know if it was the extra point or the field goal made. I believe it had to be one of the field goals made, pretty much doinked in. He should have missed that one too. So my patience with Younghoe Koo is pretty much worn as thin as it can be, to the point where there is none anymore. I'm ready. I'm ready to see Lenny Craig be this team's kicker, because even though maybe there will be some issues he got to work out, I think he's got a bigger leg. And honestly, for today's NFL, that's what you need. You need that big leg. And I think that Koo, we see pretty much that game winning kick he had last year versus the Saints is about the limit he can go, 58 yards. We're not, and I even think that Younghoe Koo has pretty much passed us. I think his best days are gone, and quite frankly, it's time to move on. It's time to cut your ties, because if you don't and you continue to allow Koo to go out there and you risk the potential of him costing you games that you're going to have to win, especially these next few weeks. Damn, Derrick Henry, that fucking Derrick Henry. Um, Raheem Morris is putting his job in jeopardy. And Raheem, you would think he learned last year with Kirk. Koo's leash should be very thin. Now I saw kind of a, trying to cover all the bases, where they have a lot of confidence in Koo, but at the same time, they didn't completely shut the door on something happening this week. Another thing also was that Koo didn't even answer any questions after the game. So it really wasn't even taking ownership for the the major blunder that ended us costing us the opportunity. And that honestly, that burns me. It does. That burns me. So I think it's time to get Koo out of here. And that's really that's my biggest complaint. I think it's time to get Koo out of here, because that is just a kick that you have to make that big of a game. And this wasn't just against anyone. It was against Tampa. This is the team we're gonna have to beat to win the division. And we know that. And the fact that Koo missed that kick, it's time to get him out of here. Time to see what Craig can do. How Talking about some other things really quickly. I felt like the defense showed promise today, but once again, one of the big things we've been told this offseason is that we're going to see more pressure on the quarterback. And we saw it some. We saw some throwaways. This also felt like, in Baker Mayfield, he's a slippery quarterback. He shows a lot of fight on runs. He ends up, you know, making something out of nothing a lot of the time. Baker Mayfield's a really underrated quarterback, but at the end of the day, you got to wrap guys up. That was one of my keys to victory. You got to wrap guys up. You got to get that pressure. And that is ultimately one of the things that cost the Falcons the game. I think we saw some promise from the secondary outside of obviously the last touchdown that honestly just really seemed like a blown assignment, but you cannot have that late in the game. But I think we saw promise from this defense, and this team is going to get better. We're going to see this team get better, and they're going to be a better team next week than they were this week, because now you have a full week of film. You get to see what you can improve on. And it's another week of actually playing, with this revamped offensive line. And Minnesota last year with Kirk, we didn't really have that bad of a time running the ball on them. As a matter of fact, you can honestly say if we probably stick with the run, we may have had a better chance to win that game. But that was a tied game at the end of the third quarter. We lost that game because we couldn't protect the football. And I think we also see that as far as the big plays Minnesota had last year, we're going to see the Vikings tomorrow night. Um, Sam Darnold had the best year of his career last year. Minnesota had a 14-1 squad. I don't think they're doing that again. I think Minnesota could be an all right team. I don't think they're a 14-1 team. And people talk about how we haven't seen it much of Penix. We don't know what the hell JJ McCarthy is going to look like. We don't know what he's going to come out and do. But if I'm willing to bet, I think we're going to see flashes. But he's still going to have his bumps to take. So it's going to be an interesting one. It's also a must win next week in Minnesota. But I'm not panicking. Now, if the Falcons come out and lose next week, I kind of maybe think that changes the tune because even though an 0-2 start isn't the end of the world like it was back when you only had 16 games, I don't think with how tough this schedule is, can afford to get off to a huge skid early because that is what, hold on, who is that?
Hello?
What's going on?
I'm a Bucs fan. What's up?
You're a Tampa fan. What'd you think of your squad today?
Man, man, this ref sucked up, man. We can be honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were very active in the game today. You're a Bucks fan, man. What'd you think of what y'all had today?
Man, those roughing passes are dumb. I'm gonna tell you about those roughing passer calls.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I think that was the. I don't know from the booth, man. I don't think that was a fumble. That was one bullshit.
I don't know.
The,
What are you talking about?
the one fumble you guys had with Michael Penix and towards the end zone. I don't think that was
Yeah,
a.
that got overturned anyway.
And that one, I don't when the Michael Penix scored the touchdown. I think that was a fumble also.
Yeah.
I don't even think he reached.
So you're a Bucks fan. You're saying the Falcons should have won.
Yep. Honestly, yeah.
Okay, that is absolutely fair to say. So
I,
you think the Buccaneers? You think they're going to suck this year?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
You
Maybe
you think you think when we come down there in Tampa in December, we're gonna whoop your ass?
I don't know if the Bucks team is healthy. I
You
don't
don't
know.
you don't you don't know. Well, let me tell you something, okay?
Oh brother.
You're gonna see this Falcons team get better as the
Mm-hmm.
season goes on. This is a young team, so they're gonna get better, and you got a lot of guys learning right now.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't gonna be facing the same team in December that you faced today.
And
I can tell you that right now.
you haven't seen the. You haven't seen. It's about 4 or 5 players you haven't seen on the Bucks team.
Oh,
Wasn't
like
there
who?
today?
Like Godwin, like Wirfs. Yeah, y'all got some guys out. Y'all got some
Yep.
guys out. It's going.
And
Listen,
Jalen too. Jalen, the other
it's
receiver.
going.
Man.
McMillan. Yeah. No, I mean, look, y'all got some solid guys, but shoot, I mean, we ain't.
If
You
both
realize that if you take out those 3 years you had Brady, we haven't lost in Tampa since 2015,
Yeah, that's crazy though.
and that's going to continue this year because now that's a must-win game that we're going to have to win,
Yeah.
and we're going
How
to do
about
it.
this? Isn't that a must win? Because you know why? If you if because we swept Falcons swept the Bucks last year. Look what they got.
You ain't no that ain't how it works. You
See,
ain't sweeping us.
but what I'm trying to say, you could do the reverse way. Do the
Uh-uh.
reverse, like how the Bucks.
So reverse. So you sweep us, but we still win the division. Is that what
Yeah,
you're proposing me with?
yeah.
Well, I
Have you
mean,
done?
shoot, I want to make the playoffs, yeah,
Have
but
you thought about?
I don't
Have you thought
see.
about? Have you thought about it that? Have you thought about it that way?
No, not really. I just think about it as I want to beat the next team on my schedule. That's how you should think about it too, as a
Yeah,
Tampa
one game.
fan. But
Yeah, one game at a time. Yeah, The Vikings, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that, man? The Vikings,
I don't
man,
know what the
oh
hell I
brother,
don't know what the hell they're going to look like, honestly. But
Jefferson, I don't know,
I think it's
man.
going. Listen, it's going to be a different game with Penix playing. So that environment, though, that home crowd up in Minnesota is going to be rocking. I can tell
Je-
you that. But
Jefferson is gonna be if he's
other
sitting
than
the
that, dude, I think we're going to stand a chance. But
yeah. Did you could say the refs had a factor in this game today. Too many whistles. There's a lot of missed calls too from the referees too. A lot of holding calls didn't get called from both teams.
yeah,
Um, these refs, this they saw,
it was a
man,
crapshoot of a game. It could have gone either way, and it went y'all's
interceptions.
way.
You know,
Congratulations.
some interceptions both teams could have had today. Drop
Yeah,
interceptions.
absolutely, absolutely.
I don't even know
We
why.
should have had a K&L should have had a pick six off Baker Mayfield right before half.
Uh, both kickers sucks. Let's keep it real.
Yeah, y'all's guy missed some kicks too.
4 points. 4 freaking points. Who almost missed an extra point too early in the game.
Yeah, well,
Crazy, right? Man, I don't know
I
about the kickers. You think the kicker? You think you might have Cool
well,
for the rest of
I
the
want our kicker gone, and we got his replacement on our practice squad. That's what I want. Koo gone this week. I want Lenny Craig brought up. That's
Really?
what I want.
Oh, man, I heard a lot of Falcon fans say that today on YouTube. I've been watching YouTube, Twitter. Man, they want him gone for real, for real.
Yeah, because we're sick of his bullshit.
Is he still hurt? Is he still playing hurt? By the way, if you know, is he still hurt?
I just think his best days are past him.
Mm. Just
Oh,
like, just like,
what
just like Justin Tucker.
what else do you guys say?
I don't know, man. I don't
Because
think the.
you're supposed to give it to me. You're
Yeah, I
supposed to
am.
give it to me tonight
Yeah,
because
you're
I'm a
right.
Falcons fan. Y'all
I
just
know.
y'all just came in our house and won.
Yeah,
And like you're saying
man.
that we should have won. That's interesting.
But it's the truth. If we never got the defensive holding call, the rough on the passer call towards the end of the game, we should never. Maybe you guys would
Yeah.
never got the ball back, and we
Well, I
never.
mean, hey, I
And
can
and
appreciate you for telling the truth, and you know that saying, the truth will set you free. So let's go ahead and let's set you free for the night, okay? Let's set you free. Shout out to him for coming in, but I no hard feelings towards him, but just had to get him out for the night. Um. Anyways, God, where were we? But man, listen, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. There have been times I've come on here and I've been all doom and gloom after week one and really felt you know demoralized. I don't feel that. I truly feel like this is the team. We got the guys and we got our motherfucking quarterback. And I think that fact alone is what that gives me a lot of confidence because yeah, we lost, but I loved what I saw from Penix today. We got to start getting him on the right side of these things because he's given us a chance to win every one of these games he's had. Go this exact same way, and this happens at the end, and I'm about sick of seeing it, and I know he is too. So the defense has to start backing him up. This cannot be the Matt Ryan era 2.0. You cannot waste this young man's talent and his career because you can't get it right at the end of games. Because you got all the makings of this being what could be the start of something special with him at quarterback. You just have to get stops when it matters. That's where I say the defense, they had some flashes today. They showed some promise, but they still late in the game, they let up. They were not able to generate enough pressure. Matter of fact, the 2 sacks we did have today, if we even had 2 sacks, came from defensive backs, actually. We saw actually, matter of fact, it wasn't even that. We saw, let's see, what did we see? Divine Diablo and Billy Bowman combined for a sack on Baker Mayfield. And by the way, I'm gonna make another video tomorrow, really recapping this more so in depth because, um, man, let me tell you something. Divine Diablo, as much as they'd been talking about him all off season, and I really was kind of wary of it, they clearly have. Jeff Ulbrich has a vision for this guy, and it is clearly working because he was all over the field today. He was playing linebacker today. He was doing what a linebacker should do. And honestly, I really wish I could have seen Kane Ellis get some of those plays also. Kane Ellis should have had a pick six. And here's what I would have done. And this is where I say Jeff Ulbrich, you know, yes, he's a new defensive coordinator, but he also has to learn this. And you would think with how long he's been coaching, this is common knowledge. Kane Nellis should have been the spy for Baker Mayfield late in the game to prevent any of the scrambles. Or what I would have done is I would have actually put Jalen Walker as the spy. Jalen Walker, he can play linebacker. Why wasn't he spying Baker Mayfield and keeping him in check? Because even though Baker is not known to be a runner, Baker can absolutely break you with just those 8 or 9 yard runs on third down to extend those drives. And that is what he did today. And ultimately, the Falcons, they stayed in the game. Neither team really took full control of the game, but Tampa's ability to make the big plays outweighed ours, and that was the difference in the game. Tampa was able to get those touchdowns and was able to just get a couple more big plays than we were in the end. And that is what cost us today. But, at the same time, I knew this game was going to be a 50-50 game. And you got to get them in Tampa. And, now you got to win 2 of your next 3. I think that's what the most nerve-wracking thing is. You got to win in Minnesota, and then you got to win 1 of your next 2 against Carolina, who absolutely sucked today. So, we go up to Charlotte in 2 weeks and we handle business. We should have no problem beating their asses. Then we got Washington coming in. I still think there's a possibility we could win 3 straight games. I do. Is it a tall task? Certainly. I still think it's a possibility that it could absolutely happen. But, it's as long as you get 2 of your next 3, I feel like you're all right. Even, going to the bye and then coming out of the bye with Buffalo coming in, then going to San Francisco, as long as you can go in that bye 2-2, I feel like, you're not totally out of it yet. But you got to find a way to win 2 of your next 3. But, I definitely think there's an opportunity to grow from today, but we saw promise. We did not, we saw this Falcons team show heart. And we even saw from the defense, we saw the defense be able to, get some big outs. We saw them, be able to get a stop in the fourth quarter, which allowed us to go down and go up 20-17. It's just they have to come through late. That's the big thing. They were not able to get a big stop for us today. You got to come through late. But overall, I don't think that it was necessarily the defense that fully cost us this game. I think it was a mix of Zach Robinson's play calling. I really think that's what it was when it comes down to it. And also, of course, Younghoe Koo, which by the way, if it does go to overtime, of course, there's no guarantee that we win. But considering the new overtime rules where now both teams do get the ball, I actually think there is a very solid chance that the Falcons would have won. I do. I think if they could have gotten it to overtime and where Penix really was and the type of guy we know he is in the clutch, I think there is a very, very real chance that the Falcons would have been able to get it done, even if it goes to overtime, just like last year. But, at the end of the day, this is the reality. And we lost to Tampa in 2016, and we know how that season went. We just don't win week 1 at this point. We got to accept that. We don't win week 1. So we got to go out. We got to go out next week. We got a big one in Minnesota, and we got to get that. So I'll talk more about what we saw tomorrow in a video. But the Zoom link is open for anyone who wants to come in here and talk about this. But we lost, but I know we got our quarterback, and I know we're going to be all right. That's all I could say. I know we're going to be all right because we got our quarterback, and I saw some promise. I do want to also touch on Drake London, who left the game in the fourth quarter with a shoulder injury. He's considered to be day to day. They're going to do more testing tomorrow, but he might miss some practice this week. But the hope is that maybe he could still be good to go next week for Sunday night in Minnesota, which you're gonna need Drake for that one. You are. You're gonna need him, and I would also expect that Darnell Mooney should be back next week as well. So I said this, from this. I said the Falcons are going to start 1-1. I don't think we're going to be good enough to start 2-0 out of the gate, but I think we're gonna find our way to at least 1-1. Also think we're going to split with Tampa. So now I think it's a must to get that game in December. I think the Falcons can definitely do it. Um, let's see who else. What else happened today? Um, I know the Saints lost, and everyone knew that was going to happen. I know that Bryce Young went back to basically looking like the quarterback that he was. So it looks like that little run he had at the end of the last season, that was, I guess they sold their soul for Superman to go be put in his little body for like 6 games. And they still didn't do shit within the long run because they only won, what, 4 or 5 games last year, and they don't look good at all. Let's see. The Giants, they may end up starting Jackson Dart soon. Colts killed the Dolphins. I picked Indy to win. I didn't think they were going to kill them like that, though. Let's see. Steelers and Jets. That was a fun game. Aaron Rodgers actually looked like Aaron Rodgers today, and Fields did all right. Bengals survived against the Browns. Raiders beat the Patriots. I kind of figured that would happen. Washington beat the Giants. Denver beat the Titans. 49ers stole one against the Seahawks. Rams beat the Texans. And I knew the Packers are going to beat the Lions because I said the Lions, 2 new coordinators, they're going to have some time to adjust themselves. So that's the story of week one. I'm glad that football's back. But, now that I will say, now that we're done with week one, now that this is a week to week thing, and we're not having to anticipate a game for 8, 9 months. Now it's to a point where now it's on to the next one, and got a very big one next week on Sunday Night Football versus the Vikings. That we simply put we got to get, but we got the quarterback, we got the weapons. And every facet of this team is going to get better, including this defense. I just hope that we can see um, more pressure generated, even with the lack of a true big man up front, that we can let Pierce roam loose, because we didn't let Pierce roam loose today. That's the one thing I noticed. You're going to have to let Pierce roam loose in some of these games like he did Watson Bowman. And honestly, at this point, I know they weren't listed on the depth chart as starters. Walker and Pierce are both starters starting next week. Let them roam wild and wreak some havoc. Let let that happen. Let's see. Baltimore's got big third down coming up. I say Zoom links in there. Anyone wants to join, anyone wants to come through, talk about what happened. I do want to show y'all this because this wasn't a bad day, really. I mean, there's some days that like I can honestly tell y'all that like the Falcons they ended up losing and like it completely ruined my day. It did not ruin my day. I had a very solid day despite the loss. There's certainly days I've let a loss ruin my day. I'm not gonna let today be the one because still had a solid day, still met some solid people. Shout out to Blake. I was there at the game with him. Um, damn. Baltimore may get that done. But let's see. I want to show y'all something. Here we go. Let's see. Y'all know who that is. I know y'all know who that is. That's if y'all know who that is, man. That is Trey from the Water Boys podcast, and shout out to him. Shout out to everyone over there, man, for doing what they do, though, because when I tell you those guys, they're funny as hell, they're entertaining as hell. So shout out to Trey, shout out to B Rich. I saw him. Let me tell y'all the story. So the Falcons changed a lot of things up this year, or Mercedes-Benz Stadium changed a lot of things up this year because they got the new 300 club. Where I mean I'm gonna be there sitting in there for one of the games this season. Oh damn, that is a very bad play. But anyways, they got this new 300 club this season, so they changed all sorts of stuff up, man. And now typically where you used to be able to meet like that because every game the Falcons will have a legend show up. It went from being like around section 324, 325 to now it's like up on the sky bridge on the 300s. So I just got in line, man, to meet Jonathan Babineau. And I'll show y'all that in a second. But I saw this guy and I immediately knew who he was. And he just got done meeting with Jonathan Babineau, and he was, talking to one of the ladies, trying to get, his picture sent to his phone. And, he's walking back, and I asked him, "Hey, my man, are you Trey?" He says yes, and told him I love the work, love the podcast, got that photo right there, man. So shout out to the Water Boys, shout out to Trey, shout out to B Rich. They keep it real, and also, man, the guests that they have on, because man, when I tell you they've had former players on, they've had Jonathan Abraham on, they've had Harry Douglas on, I believe they've had Roddy White on. So these are some guys that really they they have made it big. They've got some big interviews, and they may be having Jonathan Babineau on soon. I don't know if we didn't talk about all that, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jonathan Babineau's on there soon because they had the conversation. But anyways, man, shout out to Trey for his generosity, and obviously everything that they're doing over at the Water Boys. And then this one right here, man, that is a that's probably I think one of the most underrated Falcons. He doesn't really get talked about a lot, but the consistency that he brought us, for over a decade. And I continue to say it. When I talk about a guy that can just eat up blocks, I'm talking about Jonathan Babineau, a guy who just goes in there and no, he ain't gonna rack up all the stats, but he's able to go up in there. He's able to eat up some blocks. He's able to go to work. And that's the type of guy that the Falcons need here. I really would like to see Rookie be that. Rookie had a up and down day. He had a rough in the passer call that I think is questionable, but at the same time, still, the one time he was able to get his hands on the quarterback, seemingly ended up really fucking us up and putting Tampa in a better spot to go score that go ahead touchdown with a minute left in the game. So I'm definitely going to need to see more out of Rukaroro. I'm gonna need to see someone step up like how Bab stepped up and was really that force for us for 10 years, for over 10 years, because he was here from like '05 to the Super Bowl team, I think. I think he was on that Super Bowl team. So, and that, obviously, shout out to him, shout out to the generosity for the Falcons. I gotta say, loved being back at the stadium today. Loved being back there just because me, that there's nothing like a Falcons game. Nothing like going to a Falcons game. So, anyways, that being said, week one's officially down, and we got 17 weeks to go, and this season's only just begun. I think I'm confident in that. That in the end, I think we're going to be all right. I'm not, not saying it's going to be perfect because there's some work to do. And honestly, I think there's got to be a tough decision that has to be made. I think you got to cut loose a Younghoe Koo, but I think you do that. I think you're going to be all right because you got your quarterback. And when you have your quarterback, we saw it with Washington. You can accomplish a lot. So I'm really, really excited to see the improvements that are made next week heading into Minnesota because that's going to be a big game. We're also going to see the Vikings tomorrow night. So they're going to kind of have they're going to have a day less to prepare also. So we got to keep that in mind. But Kevin O'Connell's a good coach, Brian Flores. So that's going to be a tough beat, but I truly think it can be done. And I get that feeling that it can because always told you, I get the feeling we're going to be 1-1 after the first 2 weeks. I think it's time to go up in there and get that win up in Minnesota. We're going to talk about that later in the week. Also going to put an official bow on this game tomorrow. Appreciate everyone for watching. Appreciate that one Bucs fan for coming through. And I will see you all in the next one. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to share it out. Remember to take care. I'll see you on the next one.